always striving, searching for new knowledge and the next breakthrough as we aim to create the greatest impact on disease. We need to keep our doors and our minds open, collaborating among ourselves and with others, bringing the best talent to tackle the toughest issues.
We're seeing so much progress in the areas of biology and disease that we're interested in. Progression in genomics, in new platforms and new technologies that are enabling us for the first time to not just think about treating disease, but potentially slowing it, reversing it, and even perhaps one day curing it.
If it requires a different kind of molecule or a different approach or a different model system than we've ever used before, this is a company that will take it on. And as a researcher, it makes it a really vibrant and exciting place to work.
I was always very keen and curious to understand the world around me, and science provided an opportunity to just do that. Postdoctoral research position at AstraZeneca is an excellent opportunity to do groundbreaking science. Not only is it a mixture of talented individuals from very diverse backgrounds, but it provides you with cutting-edge technologies and experts in various different fields, from chemistry to biology to clinical sciences.
You'll have an opportunity to help advance some of the biggest health challenges and be supported to rapidly learn new approaches, to follow the science, to innovate and to develop.
By getting really cool, innovative ideas from the outside community, it will help us accelerate our ability to turn science into medicine. You can be a part of that. It's exciting to learn about how we discover, develop, and ultimately get drugs and medicines to patients. We're really excited to launch the Global R&D Challenge today, and to help us accelerate scientific discovery, to turn science into medicine, but also hopefully to try and help stimulate your ideas and turn those ideas into medicines or technologies that we can apply to research and development. So we're really looking for any cool new idea that you may have, whether it be in a disease area of our interest, whether it may be a new technology or a new application that you think we can help you turn into something that we can apply or can be useful for our understanding of disease and medicine. This program forms part of our early talent program. We have in AstraZeneca somewhere between 120 and 130 postdocs at any one time, PhD students, interns, and we try and create a really vibrant community of early talent, because ultimately it's the early talent that will one day be sitting on these seats, selecting hopefully the next generation of early talent. And so it's our role and our job to make sure that we help develop you as scientists, physicians, to generate the next set of scientific leaders, whether they be in academia, biotech, or industry. Now, our research and development is focused on three key areas: biopharmaceuticals R&D, which is the part of the organization that I run; oncology R&D, which is run by Susan Galbraith, you'll see in a minute; and Sharon Barr, who runs our rare diseases R&D unit based out of the US. In biopharmaceuticals R&D, our ambition is to change the lives of billions of people around the world who live with chronic diseases. And I mean billions of people. And this doesn't include the work that we've done on COVID, which would make it even more billions. Billions of people, diabetes, asthma, COPD. These are affecting friends, family members, loved ones. We see them every day, and our job is to try and make these diseases, which can be very debilitating, can really impact the quality of life of individuals, to enable them to live their life to full, to enjoy their children, their grandchildren, their life and their potential, so that they can really have a high quality of life. And of course, to discover new medicines, to turn our understanding of science and disease to medicine, we have to have good targets, good ideas, good understanding of disease pathophysiology. And that's where I hope this postdoc challenge will come. We'll come with ideas that hopefully can help us understand a pathway or a disease better than we do today. And we can then turn that knowledge into something that we can apply to a drug discovery program or a technology that can help us hopefully one day help millions or billions of people. Let me now introduce Susan Galbraith and Susan Barr, who will tell you a little bit about oncology and rare diseases.
At AstraZeneca, our ambition is to provide cures for cancer in every form. We're not going to settle for standard of care or incremental improvements. We're leading a revolution to redefine cancer care. In oncology R&D, Our strategy is to attack cancer from every angle by investing in key platforms which aim to directly kill cancer cells and by harnessing the immune system to combat the disease. We're aiming to increase the proportion of patients who can achieve long-term survival and even cure. There are several elements to this strategy. First, we need to identify and treat patients earlier in their disease course when the chance for cure is higher. Second, we need to target treatment to the patients most likely to benefit from that particular mechanism. And third, we need to build effective combinations that address different mechanisms driving cancer. By putting all of these elements together, we're confident that we can improve the prospects for long-term survival and cure.
Being a leader in rare disease research means that you're not afraid to do the hard experiment. You're not afraid to step forward first in an area that other companies have shied away from. What makes it tricky to work on a tiny patient population is understanding what's the driver of the disease, what biomarkers tell us about how the patient's disease is progressing and how that patient is responding to drug, and how we can identify patients who are most likely to respond to a therapy. All of those things are driven by science, by the way that we understand the pathophysiology of their disease and the way that we can measure those biomarkers. We have access to a larger scientific community and a greater set of capabilities than we ever have before. And I think it puts this team in a really unique position to step forward and become the industry leaders in creating therapeutics for patients with rare disease. It's a really wonderful opportunity for us and for the patients that we hope to serve.
So I hope that gave you a little bit of a flavor of the type of work that we do within AstraZeneca. So this program really is about reaching out to MD PhDs, MDs or PhDs, or MD PhDs, let's not be too specific, early in their careers, maybe qualified within the past 5 years with their degrees, and really who have an interest, an idea they want to try and turn into something that can be useful in terms of medicine and disease understanding. AstraZeneca is very much a collaborative company. You saw me on the video in Cambridge. We're based in Gothenburg. We have a number of sites around the US. Our culture is very much one of partnering and collaborating with academia, sharing our technologies and our work with the best academics around the world to try and put the two things together to help us accelerate our understanding of disease and turn that understanding into medicines. The way this will hopefully work is from today, the challenge will be open and you'll be able to submit a proposal. We will then have a review of those proposals, and then in October in Gothenburg, on one of our sites in Sweden, we're going to have the judging panel here with you, and the finalists will be presenting a little bit like a Dragon's Den or a Shark's Tank, if you ever watch those types of programs, where you do a pitch of your proposal to the judging panel and we pick the winners. There isn't a limit to how many postdocs or how many of these awards we will give. We really want to take the very best ideas and give as many as we possibly can, and I would love to get as many from this region as we can as well, because I think it's a fantastic opportunity. The awards are fully funded, so the postdocs are fully funded. You'll get access to all of our technologies, capabilities, working with chemists, biologists, statisticians, physicians. All of those teams are available to you and will be part of the postdoc, the postdocs that win, or the proposals that win. You can be based on any of the sites. The other piece, and Chris will talk about this in a moment, is I think this is really about us developing you. I think with all the skills and assets and technologies and experience that we have, we help our postdocs get even more out of their scientific career, and I hope it'll help accelerate your scientific careers if you're lucky enough to win. All of the information can be found on our Open Innovation website. It's there at the bottom of the slide, and I'm sure we can make that information available if you haven't got that clear. And let me just now spend a little moment to introduce our judging panel. So we have Dr. Asma Al Mannaei, who's Director of Healthcare Quality and Executive Director of Research and Innovation in Abu Dhabi. We have Professor David Goldstein, who's Director of the Institute of Genomic Medicine at Columbia University Medical Center. We have Professor Chris Lowe, who's the Emeritus Professor of Biotechnology in the Department of Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology, and Director of the Institute of Biotechnology and Director of the Cambridge Academic Therapeutic Sciences at the University. Chris, you win for having the longest title, I have to say. You've exhausted me. And then we have, that's right. And then we have Dr. Jenni Nordborg, who's the National Coordinator and Director for the Office of Life Sciences in Sweden. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Chris Rhodes to talk specifically about our postdoc program, which he runs so very, very well. Chris, insights into the postdoc program.
At AstraZeneca, we have a pretty vibrant postdoc community, biased though I am, but I think it's true, where young scientists really thrive. They have genuine scientific curiosity. They're surrounded by dynamic scientists themselves in the company, which creates synergy, and it really pushes the innovation and their research projects fast forward. We attract some of the brightest and best minds and young talent in the scientific world, many from top universities. Once on board, when a postdoc arrives at AstraZeneca, they have access to great scientific expertise, resources, state-of-the-art technologies, and that's necessary to be innovative, so that they can bring their own ideas as well within the project and let the research thrive. But they also set up collaborations with universities together that's focused on their projects. So they not only get the internal mentorship, they also get this external academic mentorship as well. We encourage all our postdocs to present their research and findings at international meetings and congresses around the world. And we really encourage them to publish. In my opinion, publications are postdoc currency, and it really gets them and their work known. Last year alone, we had nearly 200 publications, and many of those are in top-tier journals from Nature, Cell, Science, etc. So when they have their experience with their projects that they pursue, the publication, as well as the collective mentorship, they're really building the foundations for their professional network and scientific growth. And after their time with us in the AZ program, they're set well on the road to accelerate their career aspirations. Indeed, and I think this is a great number, over 95% of them stay within their scientific or technology disciplines, and they secure excellent positions in biotech, pharma, or academia. But don't just take it from me. Let's hear from a selection of our current postdocs themselves on what they think about our program and why our community is so special.
Everyone in research and development at AstraZeneca is just so passionate about the science, and they really love the prospect of being able to apply their work to help patients and make a difference in their lives.
I work with ambitious, driven and talented colleagues in a very collaborative culture. There is a stimulating environment for translating innovative technologies to medicines.
The postdoc position that AstraZeneca offers me gave me the access to a lot of cutting-edge instruments, and most of them are automated, high throughput, so make my research higher quality and more effective.
I have had the opportunity to present my work at in-house symposiums, but also at conferences nationally. But also my research has formed the basis of a manuscript, which I hope to submit at the end of this year.
I think postdoctoral research community at AstraZeneca is special because it bridges academic science and pharmaceutical setting, so brings two different worlds with different mentalities, skill sets and capabilities together, and this provides an excellent environment for translational science.
I would say the people I work with, the people that are around me are professional, enthusiastic, and really friendly. So I'm working in a research campus with over 2,000 people. So there are always people that when you have a problem, there are always people you can talk to, you can learn from, and they are always willing to help you. So that's a really enjoyable experience.
I applied for the AstraZeneca postdoc scheme because I wanted to combine the best aspects of academia and industry. Being on the postdoc scheme gives me the freedom to pursue novel research avenues, but also to know that they're targeted towards actually making a real-world difference to the lives of patients with most serious clinical unmet need.
David to sort of talk about what he thinks of programs like this and also a little bit about AstraZeneca.
Terrific. Thanks, Manny. Let me say first, it's a real privilege to be a part of this scheme. It's super exciting. Despite that, I think I'd rather be on the other side, actually. This really is truly a golden era that we're entering for human disease biology. People have been talking for decades about how genomics is going to transform our understanding of human diseases. And that hasn't really been realized yet, certainly to the degree that we had hoped. But I very much believe that it will be in the years to come. And I want to give you a little bit of a feeling of why that is. People know that we can actually now sequence human beings well. We can determine the variation that's present in any individual's genome very accurately and very quickly. This has already resulted in a transformation of clinical diagnostics using genome sequencing. Even just 10 or 12 years ago, there were many patients with strongly genetic diseases that spent years in a diagnostic odyssey trying to find the cause of disease. And now, when it's strongly genetic, we can get to that cause in hours by sequencing an individual's genome. But we haven't yet been able to use these and other technologies to really understand more about the biology of common diseases. And that's what we really need to be able to do. And a fundamental challenge in drug discovery is that the approaches that we are using, for example, cellular models of disease, animal models of disease, they often are not very translatable to what's actually happening in humans. It's a very frequent experience that you have, say, a mouse model of some common disease, and you find that modulation of a target, a particular protein encoded by a gene in that mouse model, actually improves what the mouse is like. So the disease gets better in the mouse. But then when you go and take that to humans, it doesn't translate. That's a very frequent experience. The view that most people have taken, very much including myself, is that the way that we address that fundamental challenge is that we actually transition from using mice and rats and cells as the model for human disease to using humans to understand human disease. But the way that we have to do that is to generate as much data as we possibly can on people. And we are only at the beginning of being able to generate sufficient data at sufficient scale, and only at the beginning of having the tools necessary, for example, to systematically relate human genomic variation to disease outcomes. But we are getting there, and that's going to be happening in the next few years. AstraZeneca itself is making very important contributions to this effort through its Center for Genomic Research, which I've been involved in for many years. And it's analyzing genomes on a very, very large scale. But the scale has to get even bigger, and the tools for analysis have to get more sophisticated. We actually don't know how to do this work as well as we need to. And we don't know how to integrate, for example, information about genome sequence variation with characterizations of cellular models using tools like we heard about earlier, where you can systematically perturb all the genes in a genome in cellular models and look at the effects. Integrating all of these data is a real data analysis challenge that requires fresh thinking. What I love about this postdoctoral award scheme is that the ideas are coming from the young researchers. They're not coming into an environment and being told what to work on. They're bringing their ideas to that environment. I think this is exactly the kind of fresh thinking that we need to address these really substantial problems. So in entering into a new golden era for understanding human disease biology, a question is where one might want to work in this area. And I would say, actually, as you also heard earlier, this is a kind of science that really requires a team approach. You don't do this with just the expertise that one person has. And one really good thing about the environment at AstraZeneca is it really, really emphasizes team-based science, and that's exactly what's going to be needed. The final thing I'll say is that after now about a decade of working with AstraZeneca in a variety of capacities, AstraZeneca is truly and genuinely science-focused. Literally everything that I've been involved in with AstraZeneca, everything, has been published, sometimes published very well, but always published. It's always focused on doing the science well and taking a view that doing the science well is what will contribute to developing medicines well. And I am a very, very fervent believer in that and believe that that's exactly the approach that we need for really integrating omics sciences in order to support drug discovery efforts. And I think this is the place to do it.
Thank you, David. Chris, let me hand over to you.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add a little bit to Manny's introduction to me by saying why I think I'm sitting here to start with, and that's I've been an academic all my career. I've got usual number of publications, 400 or so peer-reviewed publications, trained 99 PhD students. So I've had all that expertise as per normal. But in addition to that, I've worked with industry since about 1970 and been an entrepreneur since about 1986 or thereabouts. When I established my first company, that reached the heights of about $2 billion in terms of valuation before it was sold off eventually. And then since then, I've also set up 11 other companies. So I had a lot of experience of startup companies. And also I've sat on the other side of the fence as a VC on a number of VCs, and including Cambridge Enterprise, which I did for 11 years, and I'm about to join another one as well. So I've seen the startup situation and entrepreneurship from several different angles, from the originator of the technology, plus also from the commercial side as well. And now I'm currently working with 3 companies, of which I'm the chairman of board of one of those, and that operates both in the UK and the US, and it's a very successful company. But getting a bit closer to the point, I just wanted to give you some few facts and figures first of all. If you look at the number of diseases that inflict mankind, it's reckoned to be about 30,000. And currently, about 3/4 of those have no known treatments or cures. Okay. If you look at the way rare diseases have been discovered now, it's about 5 to 6 a week or thereabouts. So if you add that into the equation, you probably come to the conclusion that there may be about 100,000 diseases that are available out there that people need to find treatments and cures for. Now we're nowhere near that at the moment, but understanding the basis behind them, the scientific basis behind them, allows you then to have a really good look at that disease and then find appropriate treatments for it. And of course, genomics, as we've just heard, will play a significant role in that. And I just want to bring it a bit closer to home, because one of the good examples of how international collaboration works together to create these cures and treatments is actually with us right now. It's COVID-19 pandemic. If you go back just over a year, the organism has been established. It's an RNA virus. The sequence of that, the genome sequence, has been established. The sequence of the spike protein is the important part of it. The structure of the protein, the mutations are located, and of course, all of that with messenger RNA technology has developed into various vaccines for it. All done within a year by international collaboration, and I think that's a very important point to measure. So if you take just genomics, I mean, because now the human genome is sequenced properly, in other words, we have the full sequence now as opposed to only partial sequences in the past, then that allows you to think about using curative measures like the CRISPR-Cas9 or the genome editing type technologies. And it's not just genomics. I mean, the proteomics will give you the protein structure. We've seen now in silico versions of that. You don't need to necessarily put it in an X-ray machine now. You can actually do it in silico. And then you go beyond that, you're into epigenomics, you're into into metabolomics for the metabolome, and then into exposome, which everyone in this room is exposed to the environment. That also comes into account now. And all these omes, or these omics, tend to actually influence not only whether you get the disease, but also the progression of that disease as well. So it needs to be taken into account. And one I didn't mention is the microbiome as well. A lot of studies going on the influence of the microbiome on disease progression. Now, the two other areas I'm interested in, because my work has always been very multidisciplinary, it is actually synthetic biology, or as we call it in England now, engineering biology, where you're bringing together engineering principles to construct new types of drugs, new types of biologics, and also new ways of producing them under various circumstances. And the other area is digitalization, which David has already mentioned. Digitalization involves all the big data that comes out of healthcare now. It includes the blockchain, it includes the AI, it includes the healthcare apps, of which are about 500,000 now out there. And what this does is effectively empower the patient to really take their medicine in their own hands. And you can see the trend that's happening is to move away from sophisticated hospital environments into a home environment. And again, with COVID-19, you can see that trend already starting to take place, where the patient themselves will maybe diagnose at home, self-diagnose, and also maybe possibly self-treat at home as well. So that's the way a lot of the things are going in those areas. And there are other areas that you could include digiceuticals, digital pharmaceuticals, you can use electroceuticals, and a variety of others, which are bringing in physical principles into the healthcare mode. And then the question is, how do you actually go about it if you're going to be entrepreneurial and be involved in entrepreneurship? And if I look at collaboration, there are really three levels of collaboration. The first one, and this is particularly true in healthcare and pharmaceuticals, is that now you're starting to get multiple other disciplines coming into play. It's not just one discipline. It used to be microbiology or biochemistry. Now it involves chemistry, it involves physics, it involves a lot of data handling, computing. All of those technologies are coming together. So the first collaboration is to get, particularly with the academic sector, bringing all those together as to form one unit, all right, which will tackle then a key problem. Of course, the universities also work with industry as well. And one of the ways they do that is to spin off companies from the work there. And this whole postgrad challenge is really aimed at taking work that has potential commercial value into a spin-off company. And I've personally been very involved in that over the years. And then the final one is, of course, the spin-off companies can take it to so far, but very rarely can they really upscale it in the same way that a company like as AstraZeneca could. So you need really all three parts of the equation: the collaboration of the universities, you need the spin-off companies, and then you need to form a very entrepreneurial ecosystem. And then you need then, of course, the bigger companies then to take that on board, provide the money and the ability to scale that up so it can go worldwide population. So those are the issues really I wanted to just bring up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris. Dr. Asma, can I hand over to you?
Thank you very much. Actually, I would like to take this discussion a bit to share with you that I've spent around 6 to 7 years working in improving the quality of care for our patient. And I thought we had it all. So we developed the best of the systems known worldwide in order to improve the quality of care for our patient. No effort was spared to provide the best of the best. But eventually, we have reached the end, the status quo. This is what is available for the market. Unfortunately, people kept on dying and getting diseases. And unfortunately, there is nothing available to do something more and better. Fortunately, I grabbed the opportunity and moved toward research and innovation, because I believe the research innovations is gonna bring that high level of quality for our patient. It's gonna bring the treatment, the breakthrough therapies that will give a better outcome for our patient. As a regulator within the Department of Health, we are trying to creating the enabling environment for research to grow, and enabling all the information and all the enabling environment from regulations to ease up the clinical trial implementation in our population. What we have done, we believe that there is a critical priority areas for our region, specifically chronic disease, specifically oncology is, it's a bigger problem, not only in our region, but also worldwide. We believe that what is currently available in the market is not good enough, and we need to move faster and move forward. You are in a golden era where there is an application of artificial intelligence that will help you leapfrog toward a more of a stronger analytical situation where you can analyze large amount of data and bring a result to our patient. We have a strong adoption of the sequencing right now at a wider scale. Specifically in the UAE, we are already starting the Emirati Genome Program, where we are targeting to sequence more than 1 million population. Our population is diverse, so you will have that kind of an information, more than 200 nationalities readily available, and not only the genotype, but also the phenotype. And we are looking for bright minds in order to look for a creative way where you can help us target our priority disease area. We are focusing on 3 critical elements. One is the cellular therapeutics, including genomics and the application of genomics. We are looking also for areas where the adoption of AI is going to bring a better solution for our patient. Rare and metabolic disease is a big problem here in the region. As you all know, we have a higher incidence of rare and metabolic disease than anywhere else in the world because of the consanguinity and the marriages between different tribes and between different closer population. It is a true problem, but I believe this is a very excellent era and opportunity for our researchers to help us bring the solution. The enabling environment is here. We need your science and thinking and creative innovation to bring the solution for our patients and our population. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asma. Finally, Jenni, can I hand over to you? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And I can just mirror what Dr. Asma has just said. This is the time to go into life sciences. And I think that this field can attract talent and researchers from so many fields because we need you. If we are going to really shift the focus, moving from not only treating disease, which we must, and we need new tools on that, but also going more towards prevention, and then ultimately also to cure. We need to attract the best talents to join forces. And coming from the government offices, we see this as the AstraZeneca Postdoctoral Challenge as a great opportunity also to attract the best talents, because you can work wherever you are globally, but really work together on new problems. And that's also what we're looking for. Not only current solutions, but new ways of thinking and tackling those solutions. And what I think that we can offer also from the Swedish perspective in this work is our ability to collaborate and co-create. And let me take you just a couple of examples from our ecosystem, because I think that what you new scientists can bring to the table is also collaboration between ecosystems. And in Sweden, we pride ourselves being able to excel in co-creation, but we need to innovate also the way that we collaborate. And one example from the Swedish environment is the innovation hubs that we invest in. Those are public-private partnerships. The AstraZeneca BioVenture Hub, hosted at the AstraZeneca site, is actually co-invested from both the company, other companies, and both the regional and the local and the national government, really joining forces on site and globally between researchers, health workers, new entrepreneurs from many different fields, from data-driven life sciences to biology to medical technology, really working together, but also including patients and patient perspective. And I think that this is the maybe the most important aspects, and what we have seen during the COVID era is that research has never been more important, but we need to excel from research to implementation. And we have been able to implement the strongest tackling tools for health just below a year, and I think that is we've never seen that before. But we have to tackle so many new health challenges, and we've discussed that also a lot, not only for health and chronic disease, but also for AMR and the new diseases that come up also in the new environment and the environmental challenges that we are facing. So we need for all you to really join forces, and it's a great opportunity on that. And just to point a second example of the aspects of research, I think that attracting new talents to this field will also bring new models for research, not only new science, but new ways of working with research models. And we need to work both on of course, on the bio and the tech research, but also on the regulatory science. Because when we are entering a new era, we are applying intelligent decision support making. We need to make research and better understanding on also what type of policy development do we need in this field. So as for me personally, I'm very much looking forward to following this process and really encourage all of you to apply. It's a unique opportunity, and we can really pioneer the possible together in this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenni. Thank you to all of you for your insights. If we can put the QR code up now, we've got, I think, around up to 30 minutes for Q&A. We'll try and obviously answer as many questions as we can. Hopefully we'll get some questions. Hopefully we'll get some questions for the room as well. So please do go to that QR code and submit your questions through Slido. I've got an iPad that's live here. So hopefully we can start to see the questions coming up. And the first call, look, there's lots of things coming in. Fantastic. It works. That's a good start. That's a good start. I'm somewhat relieved, I have to say. So phew. Right. So what excites you most about the future of R&D? Let me go to Jenni. Why don't we talk a little bit about what excites you, what's happening in Sweden in R&D, and then maybe I'll go to Asma about some of the really cool stuff that you're doing here. And then, David, let's go to you as well.
What I think really excites about the future of R&D is the really ability to solve the challenges that we have ahead. So my focus is really on what difference does science make for society. And we were talking about the genomics and all the omics, the learnings that we have on a biological level, what that will mean for society as a whole. That excites me a lot. It sometimes scares me too, because we have to work a lot on the ethical and the secure, both the challenges and the opportunities. But I think I'm blessed to be able to observe the progress of this field.
Thank you. Asma.
I believe the application of CRISPR-Cas technology has yet to be discovered. We know this little about our human genome, and there is a huge array of information that can be sequenced, but we don't know what does it mean.
Yes.
And this is what needs to be discovered. Right now, we will have the phenotype and we have the genotype, and this genotype is not discovered yet. You have a technology that is in place, a CRISPR-Cas that can be applied, and we can move forward in doing surgeries right now in our DNA and extract that defected gene and cure people. That is a possibility, but yet it needs to be applied and needs to be discovered. I believe this is the golden era again, and because of all those enabling tools that you have at your hand today, it has never been there before, and the future definitely is gonna be fast forward, but you are at a paradigm shift right now in R&D. And this is what I think is very special about today. And we look forward for the application of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, what excites you?
So I think we really are moving towards something you could appropriately call personalized medicine. And an illustration that we are moving into a new world is that a Secretary of Health just spoke to you and talked about personalized medicine. I can tell you that didn't happen 10 years ago. And just to really illustrate concretely what I mean, moving towards personalized medicine, many of the common diseases that we talk about regularly are completely uninformative. If you think about kidney disease, which is a very common complex disease, what you really have as the disease category is a kidney that's not working very well. But in fact, we know that there are many, many different underlying reasons. And in fact, work that was led by AstraZeneca showed for the first time that using only genes that we know about today, if you actually look at the genomes of patients with chronic kidney disease, 1 in 10 of them have a clear-cut genetic cause of their chronic kidney disease in their genome. And often you wouldn't know about that without looking at the genome. So this is an illustration that as we begin to generate genomic and other data at scale, we really will start to understand the cause of disease in individual patients. Understanding the cause of disease in individual patients is going to teach us a great deal about the connection between genes and diseases, giving us better guidance about what targets to work on, and will also allow us to practice stratified medicine. This is actually coming, and I think it's coming pretty soon, and that's got me really excited.
Thank you. Chris? Chris Lowe, I'm going to come to you with another question.
No,
Chris,
right? We've got 2 Chris's here.
Yes, I do. Chris number 1.
I think I support what you said, definitely. I mean, the human genome, I mean, less than 2% is encoded into proteins. We don't know what the rest of it does. And there is a massive amount, about 60% of it, I think it is actually translated or transcribed, but nobody knows why and what it's for. If you add on to that the microbiome, you know, we've got enough microbiomes as we have actually human cells, and we're carrying around with them all the time. We don't know what impact they have yet, but that's something that's being looked at right now. So that's another area. But my own special interest is actually where disciplines come together to create new stuff that which actually you couldn't do on individual disciplines. And this is where the collaborative effort will definitely come into play. And it's not easy. I mean, I hear a lot of hearsay about what people say about this and that, working with that. But actually, when it comes down to it, people are very focused on their own discipline normally. And you can get people to talk to each other, but you can't necessarily get them to hear each other and what they're actually saying. I mean, I've worked with electronics people, physicists, mathematicians, across the whole spectrum. And that's where a lot of the developments are taking place, where disciplines are starting to merge together. And I think that's where, to my mind, is where the most exciting stuff is.
Thank you. So the question from Monica Batt, who says, my question is whether the problem we should try and solve should be based on technology or a simple diagnosis to remedy a real life problem. Now, I'll actually answer. I don't want to confine any proposal. We work on pretty much any disease. We span rare diseases to cancers, to chronic illnesses that are very, very common, to infectious diseases now, such as COVID, with antibodies and vaccines. So really nothing is off limits. We're also very interested in ways of diagnosing patients, devices that might help a patient comply to give them a better outcome in terms of how they manage their disease. We're interested in genomics. We're interested in new technologies that help accelerate our research, CRISPR gene editing, etc. So really nothing is off the table. This is really an unfettered competition where if you think there's a good idea, really what we're interested in is things that we can turn to help us accelerate our either understanding disease or technology, something that we can potentially apply to help ultimately patient well-being and outcomes. But I was going to ask Chris, because there's another question that's somewhat similar, which is what makes a good proposal? You know, you chair the postdoc committee. Maybe you could give people some advice on what makes a good proposal in terms of how we look at them and you know what to do, and maybe a few tips of what to do and what not to do.
Oh, absolutely. But first, can I just add something to what you said about what we're looking for? I'm going to keep a really careful eye out about one thing. Someone said it's not what we know, it's what we don't know, and we need to know what we don't know. So I'm looking for a bright idea coming in from nowhere that no one's ever thought about, and with a very good proposal about, this is my idea, this is how I'm going to go about nurturing that idea, and this is what nurturing that idea should grow into, and if it's grown, then this should be the outcome. And I think that's essentially what one has to put in a proposal. Something innovative, potentially brand new, something very clever, or it could be very simple in its cleverness, actually, that is going to be compelling in a proposal. And there's a bit of entrepreneurial spirit about it, that this is something new and different. This is going to really turn into something that could eventually change patients' lives.
Thank you.
And I think that's what we're really after.
There's a question from Sigdem Selly. It's a little bit related to one of the previous questions, but it says, what are the types of things that we think could accelerate today's drug discovery process and deliver a more positive outcome for patients more quickly? Who wants to take a go at that? Chris, do you want to have a go?
I think better models would be one of the things, for example. I mean, we're moving away from animal models now for the reasons already mentioned by David. I think people are working with organoids now, which you can grow on silicon, you can monitor the behavior, you can test the drugs there with real human cell lines, for example, would be one way it could be done. But if you look at the way drugs are trialed right now, I think there are lots of ways things can be done in parallel as opposed to serially as it's been done in the past. And I think COVID has again brought that up. And of course, a lot of work with using sensors and diagnostics as part of that process, so you can monitor the patient in real time. Lots of feedback through the various digital systems as well. And all of that should speed up the whole drug discovery, but plus AI in its own right, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
David, you look like you're about to speak.
Yeah, so thank you. So I think one thing that really will accelerate drug development is truly generating a data commons. We are moving towards a future where most people are going to have genome sequence data generated. Most people will actually have lots of other data generated too. And it really is going to allow us to establish entirely new connections between genomic variation and outcomes. Just one way to kind of prove that, there are 3 billion sites in the human genome. Given the mutation rate, we actually know that most of those sites, it's really remarkable if you think about it, but we know that most of those sites are variable somewhere on Earth. We have enough people that most of the sites in the human genome are variable somewhere. Right now, 20 years plus after the Human Genome Project, we actually don't know what the consequences are for changing the vast majority of those sites. But when we generate a data commons that brings together genomic data, paired with other kinds of data too, but with phenotypic information, as you heard about, electronic health record data, other kinds, we will really start to establish systematically what it means to change almost every single site in the human genome. That is really going to have a transformational effect, and it is now really coming. I think there are many, many real ethical concerns that we have to worry about and get right, but it is coming because people need access to this information for their own healthcare. It's useful in a variety of contexts, so the data will be coming, needs to be organized into a data commons, and it needs to feed the drug development enterprise appropriately, and it will.
Thank you. There's a few questions specifically about the postdoc challenge, and just to be a little bit more specific. So, can applications for the R&D postdoc come from any country? Absolutely, yes. The more countries, the better. So yes, this is absolutely open to every region. And as I said previously, it's fully funded in terms of, as I said, we pay salary. We'll help you relocate if you do choose to come to one of our sites. You get funding for all the chemicals, consumables, etc., to go to scientific conferences. So again, I think it's a very attractive proposal from that perspective. There's a question around how many positions we're going to offer. We don't know. It's going to depend on how many proposals we get in. and how many of them we're really excited about. I would say anywhere in the region of 5 to 20. So really, but it's going to be as good an opportunity, as good as the applications are. And so in that regard, I think, again, we're going to be very flexible. When does this start? The competition starts as of today, at the end of this event. You'll be able to start submitting applications. I know you won't be able to submit them today, but the deadline for submissions is May 26th, so I remember that correctly. And then the final selection will happen so that the finalists can hopefully come to Gothenburg and pitch to the judging panel on that day. And then from there, we'll actually choose the winners. For how many years? The postdoc programs generally run for 3 years. 2 years normally, and assuming the postdoc's running well, almost all of our postdocs go on to a 3rd year. Some of them unusually go on for another year, but generally I would say 3 years is the average time frame. And I think I've answered all of the questions that are specific to the postdoc program, so I'll wait for a few more questions to come in. Are there any questions in the room from anyone? People can also put their hands up if they want to ask a question live. Yes, please.
I just want to say that technology, it's just a single disease solution. It does not solve a complex disease like diabetes or asthma, for which we need the power of omics. We used to take blood samples, and now I ask patients to spit, and now more lately I ask them to take a stool sample. So I don't know where I'm going because we're going to omics and microbiomics. But really, the application of the artificial intelligence is to navigate this big data of omics you get into getting a heat maps to tell you which genes and which proteins down streams. And this is the right application. And for this to happen, we need all the bioscientists to know more about programming and to know about bioinformatics. And we need to sit with those smart tech people who speak the language that probably we didn't know about.
Yes, I completely agree. And just again, because this is really open to everyone, we have, again, within AstraZeneca, we have within chemistry, data scientists that are taking all of our chemistry data, all of our synthetic routes, all of the patents that are published, all of the papers that are published, and using all of that data, using AI algorithms and data scientists to help us make better molecules, make better synthetic designs. We do the same in biological processes. If you think about how much data we generate, but more importantly, how much data is generated by the world, we have now data sets and computer automation that automatically collects all of that data, uses natural language processing to actually help enable our scientists to use something that we call knowledge graphs to be able to turn what is an impossibly large data set for any one person to look at into something that is manageable, where they can start to go into specific areas. But we're interested in all aspects of disease, from how we define a patient that is going to respond to therapy, to how we define what a response to a therapy is, to how we understand disease pathophysiology and what's driving disease. And you're absolutely right. In chronic diseases, they're multifaceted, multifactorial, unlike to be treated by any one single mechanism. But we have even solutions for that. We have things that can target multiple mechanisms simultaneously through bispecific and trispecific antibodies. We can do combination therapies. We can do all sorts of different approaches. So really, I don't want people to feel that there is anything that isn't of interest. What we want is the best ideas that you think have an application that can help us understand disease and improve patient outcome. Lots of questions coming in again. Is this challenge, excuse me, directed to synthetic organic chemists as well? Absolutely it is. Not just organic chemists, physical chemists, physicists, imaging experts. There's all sorts of different technologies. This is really open to anyone that has an interest in applied medical sciences. How we can do new catalysis, how we can optimize our synthetic routes. We have, for example, in our lab in Gothenburg, an incredible laboratory where we have computer systems set up and robots, where we have the computers designing the molecules based on AI. We then have a robot doing the synthesis and doing the pharmacological reaction, and then the computer reads the results from that and makes the next round of molecules. And the only people that are involved in that are the computer scientists and the chemists outside the room that are looking at the data and sort of saying, yes, I've got a good enough molecule that's coming out of it. It's really, really fascinating. And so really this is open to all disciplines from all areas of the applied sciences. Should the proposals be specific to the disease and medicines AstraZeneca is already offering to patients, or can it be something irrelevant and new? It can't be something irrelevant. It can be something new, right? So does it need to be in the disease areas that we work in? No, obviously it's going to be great if it is in the disease areas that we're interested in, but we're interested in such a broad spectrum of areas that I think there's very few things, if it's a good idea, that we won't be interested. And as David said earlier, there are many diseases that we don't work in that actually give us insights into diseases that we do work in. So I think really this is open to any area of science that you're interested in. It really is about having a high quality, exciting proposal more than the area that it's in. What can we do to bring down the high attrition rate in drug discovery and development? Oh, goodness. How long do we have? Let me ask, actually, David, I think you...
Oh, no way.
No. I'm going to ask you, actually, because I think what the company that you've set up is, I think, very interesting in this space. I'm also going to ask Chris, because, again, you've been involved in a lot of things in this space. Talk about, again, I know you've talked about it already, but a little bit about, rare diseases and helping us get better understanding of common diseases or complex diseases.
I'm glad you narrowed it down a little bit. So I think there are a number of ways into treating common diseases. One way that I've gotten really excited about is going through rare diseases to get to common diseases. And the idea here is that we've learned actually a lot about the 4,000 plus genes that carry mutations that cause Mendelian diseases. A lot of these Mendelian diseases are ultra rare. And because they're so very rare, they're actually not being worked on seriously for drug discovery efforts, which is a problem because a lot of these are very devastating diseases. And so you're not getting effective therapies developed because there are too few patients. But many of those, even ultra rare diseases, actually look like they're very informative about common diseases. And in fact, I think what's happening is that a lot of the genes that cause rare diseases, they are critical genes in key biological processes relevant to more common diseases. And if that's true, then it should be the case that learning how to treat some of these ultra rare diseases will actually give us insights into more common diseases. An illustration of that, going back to the kidney disease example that I described earlier, there are 700 odd genes that carry mutations that cause Mendelian diseases that include kidney dysfunction in the symptomatology. So that actually highlights for us key biological pathways relevant to kidney function. Learning how to treat some of those rare diseases might give us guidance about how to treat more common forms of kidney disease. So I've become really excited about the idea that we could do some real good in the world by treating some of these devastating rare diseases, and in the process, get some guidance about what pathways are very relevant to more common diseases.
Thank you. Chris, quick, a short answer, if you can.
That's very unlikely.
I know you don't like short.
What was the question again?
Things that can help improve attrition in R&D.
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one, that. I mean, it's. I think probably you've got AI certainly sitting on that, and a number of tools to play with now, which you didn't have previously.
Yes.
I mentioned organoids, for example, as a thing to play with. I think if all that was roboticized, I think you probably could speed up a lot.
Yeah.
Of it. And of course, the availability of money is also an issue, which is why COVID was so fast.
Yes. Yes. That's good. I mean, we study this quite a lot, obviously, because we're trying to get better at what we're doing. And even though we have a good success rate in our company, we're one of the best performing R&D groups in the world. Our success rate, just to give you a little bit of context, is around 20%. So when we take our molecules into man, right, about 20% of them succeed and about 80% of them fail. Right, so even though we're doing really, and I can say as an industry, we're probably 8-9%. So the industry fails a lot. It has actually got a lot better. It used to be at 4 to 6%. So you can imagine that it's a lot of very good at failing. We're very experienced at failing. But what I would say is the reason why we fail has changed. It used to be because we couldn't make good molecules or because we didn't understand pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics or patient selection. The reason we fail now is actually a little bit to your, diseases are too complex, and we actually don't understand what the drivers of disease are. And so we now actually do test the hypotheses that we want to test in the clinic, but the hypotheses are wrong. So we learn, right? But we actually don't understand the disease. So actually things that help us understand disease pathophysiology and the drivers of the disease pathophysiology, and trying to get as upstream as you can to those drivers, I think are going to be what's going to further improve, which is, David, why I think what you're doing is so important. A few more questions about the postdoc challenge itself. So is it open to people from the UAE? Yes. We wouldn't be not having it open in the UAE and not having it open to the UAE. When do you expect the postdoc to start? Is it in 2023? I think, again, that can be somewhat flexible depending on personal situations. But yes, we would hope in 2023. Is it going to be an annual challenge? I'd like to get through this one first and work out whether it works well and whether we get good proposals in. But I think if it is successful, it will be something that we do again. Yes, so I don't think this will be, I hope it will not be a one-off. There's a question here about what do you feel has been the greatest healthcare discovery over the last years? I'm actually going to take, if you don't mind me answering this myself, and hopefully you all agree. I have to say, the past 2 years, COVID has been, something that I don't think any of us have ever experienced before in the world, let alone in academia, medicine, or our industry. And I think if there's ever an example of what our industry, what the collaboration between academia, biotech, and industry can do to transform healthcare around the world, COVID is the example of that. No one had ever heard of mRNA vaccines or adenovirus-based vaccines 2 years ago. We'd actually been working with Moderna for about 10 years before in the cardiovascular metabolic space. But I think it shows the power of innovation, the power of an agility of our industry, and then the impact that we can have on all of our friends and families and communities. And that's why we get out of bed every day. It's why we do what we do, and it's why I get so excited about talking about science and turning science into medicine. The COVID vaccines and the COVID therapies that have all got launched within 2 years of first identifying this virus, I think are a testament and a power to what we can do as an industry, and what hopefully you one day can do as well with your ideas. Right, in recruiting your postdoc candidates, do you consider team-like recruitment? Must each applicant have a unique selling point? That's an interesting question, whether it could be a team application. I think the answer would be yes. It could be, if you've got, let's say, a postdoc with, a couple of you, I wouldn't make it like a group of 10, but let's say 2 people together with an idea, an MD and a PhD, that makes an MD PhD. Or 2, data scientists and a biologist. I think that could be something that works. I think really what we want to award is the proposal and the idea, not necessarily just whether it's a single postdoc or a small group of people. Yeah, and actually, even if it's a postdoc that we award and we really like the idea, it may be the ultimate that we end up funding, a group if it helps something happen more easily. What guidance do you have for people starting their careers in drug discovery? Chris, why don't you take that? You've been in drug discovery for a while.
I have now, but I did actually come from a long time in academia. I think the word of advice starting off is be prepared for teamwork in a very good way. It's a marvelous interaction between different teams of different disciplines, all coming together. And things can move really quickly if things go well, so you should be prepared for that as well. And also be open to embrace the science that's going on around you. You don't know what will happen. The good ideas don't always turn out to be good ideas, but a not so good idea turns out to be a really good idea if you're following the science all the way, what the science is telling you and what the team around you is telling you with the science. It's exciting times, as we said. Days of omics are here upon us, and I think that really any young researcher should be big data savvy at this stage of the game, and we really install things like that into our young scientists that come on board with us now.
Thank you. Jenni, there's a question here. What do you think, there's a nice question here, what do you think are the key attributes of a good scientist or researcher? difficult question to easy question to ask, difficult question to answer. But what some good attributes of a good scientist or a good physician?
Just to as you say, focus on the teamwork. Don't be afraid to raise the questions that you have. Your questions are important. That's what really drives us forward, and really to be passionate about work. And that's why most people go into life sciences, is to be able to make a difference for society. And that is why I think that life sciences is the area now, because the Gen Z, what they really want to do is make a difference for society. So I think being passionate, being focused on teamwork, and like all of you have expressed so much, you will fail. So don't be afraid to fail. Utilize your failures. That's what did you say? That sort of failure is the way to success.
Without failure, you don't learn. But you need to dust yourself down and get up again.
And be bold enough to apply for such a really competitive program that this will be. I mean, it's going to be highly competitive, and if you want, you will be able to compete. Just express yourself.
Dr. Asma, there's one question for you. We're going to finish with this question. I think it's a nice question, given we're in the UAE. What kind of government policy changes can drive investment into R&D? And this more personalized approach to treatment?
Actually, excellent question. And this gives me the opportunity of what is being done as we speak. So the government has changed completely post-COVID. We are moving from being very protective toward being very enabling. So we have realized that in order to tackle our problem with COVID, we have to be collaborative and agile and enabling, to bring all the stakeholders together and create and regulate what needs to be done in a safe and fast pace. What we are doing right now, we have realized again post-COVID that the solution and the R&D is a key instrumental pillar in the healthcare system. It's no longer a commodity, or it's no longer that it is something optional. It is a must and the core of our healthcare delivery. What we are doing as a regulatory entity, we have created the center that is dedicated for the research and innovation. It brings all spectrum of the research, from the basic research to the scaling and adoption and commercialization. We have strong partners across the whole spectrum of maturity of clinical trials. So we communicate, and we have strong enabling support for researchers that are working in universities on basic research. We have created the bridge between the basic research to translational research and enabling further clinical trials to be conducted in our hospitals under supervision of the regulator. And we have shortened our operations to make it very fast and enabling, and we save the time. So our IRB approval takes 8 days from submission to implementation. From submission to decision, it's 8 days. And we are trying to improve also even further in that. And moving from a clinical research perspective to more of startup, we have a health tech environment, and we work with the plug and play for incubating and supporting and accelerating the knowledge gained from those clinical trials and those research to how we can teach the professors at the university how to start a company. Because usually there is a big border between science and academia, and between what it takes to convert your knowledge into a commercialized product. So we worked heavily to encourage, because we want to encourage a knowledge-based economy. And we move with this startup by collaborating with our stakeholders like Abu Dhabi Investment Office and other incentive packages with Hub 71 and other within Abu Dhabi government to scale up the solution. And not only that, if the solution is good for our population, it is an immediate commercialization opportunity by including them in our insurance scheme. So there is a good pathway for the clinical trial from the basic research until the scaling up and adoption and commercialization. This is what we believe the regulator needs to adopt as a position post-COVID era. This is what we are doing in the Emirates of Abu Dhabi in the Department of Health.
Thank you very, very much. There's one last question, which is what other factors are considered in candidate selection beyond the project proposal? And again, I would say this is all going to be driven by the project proposal, but I would also really encourage people. I would love to see proposals coming from low and middle income countries, from countries where we don't normally see applications for some of our postdocs, because for me, that's the opportunity of doing this at Expo, for doing this here, and for actually making this really a truly global R&D challenge. I want to just thank all of our speakers today for joining us. They're all incredibly busy people, as you know, and they've taken time out of their busy schedules to come here and to also help us on the judging panel. So thank you all very, very much indeed. The competition is now live. You can start your submissions. We really look forward to reviewing them and hopefully seeing a few of you in October in Gothenburg. And please, thank you all. And I'm very happy for those of you here today as well that you joined us. Thank you very, very much indeed.